So, pegging off of the safety rankings from last week, here are my 2021 linebacker rankings. And this class is really interesting because you got some really good guys at the top, and then you got some guys later on in the middle of the class, and then some guys on the bottom of the class. But there's a good solid 10-ish guys that could be day 2 picks, and that's a really good thing. One thing that we speak about in this class is the depth of it. All the positions across the 2021 NFL draft class are very deep and have a lot of guys in them. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off with my bottom 3 guys, we got Jabril Cox, Chaz Surratt, and Tony Fields. And the thing about Jabril Cox, Chaz Surratt, and Tony Fields is one common theme prevails, and they all need to get better at linebacker traits. In this video, you're going to hear me talk about linebacker traits versus athleticism and just being able to be a good football player. But linebacker traits are much different because you have the instincts, you have the pursuit angles, the lateral mobility and whatnot, the tackling, the coverage ability. You have these linebacker traits that are very different than you're just basically if as a defensive end. Take Gregory Rousseau. If you're fast and you can kind of run around a little bit, you'll be in good shape to make a lot of plays. And that's what we saw with Gregory Rousseau in 2019. That's not necessarily the case on the next level for these linebackers. Guys like Jabril Cox have pretty solid instincts and athleticism, but they're just not the most physical player against the run, and that's why I have him rated lower than a lot of people will. I think all 3 of these guys, another common theme is they need to build their body. All 3 of these guys, I believe, are undersized except for Tony Fields, but still, as we talk about him, we'll get into him. All 3 of these guys need to continue to build their body, and Jabril Cox is included in that. Chaz Surratt, converted quarterback, which is kind of an interesting thing, because he needs help mentally. He's lacking mentally as a linebacker, and that can cause him to miss plays. He's athletic, and he can do really well in coverage, but he's just not there. His instincts are lacking, and for that, I have to rank him down low because of that lack of linebacker traits. And finally, Tony Fields. He does a lot of good stuff. He has a lot of good linebacker traits. I just think when it comes to going against bigger guys, Tony Fields is a little undersized and will end up struggling with strength, and he's going to need to build his body a little bit first. But that's the overview on 12, 11, and 10 here. The common theme of them needing to build their body and develop is there. They could get better. I think they're all kind of fringe day 4 or day 3 picks, but they could definitely get better. And 2 of them, Chaz Surratt and Jabril Cox, will likely go in day 2. So we'll see. Moving on to number... what this thing's going on? The Google Slides does not do a good job of loading these guys quick, so my apologies. We have our next 2, so we'll just talk about our next 2 here. Pete Werner is at 9 here. I love Pete Werner. He's a dog. He's super aggressive. He's super great. Ohio State runs a lot of coverage, like coverage schemes for their linebackers, so we see a lot of linebackers drop into coverage with their Ohio State linebackers drop into coverage, and Pete Werner's one of those guys. But I think he can move to Mike. He has the size for it. He has the ability to be aggressive and go to be downhill and make plays, as well as succeed in zone coverage on the outside or even in the middle. The big knock with him, for me, is his athleticism. His hips are pretty tight. He's not the fastest guy in the world. I feel like every year we have a white Big Ten linebacker that isn't the most athletic guy, but can make a lot of plays. I think a couple years ago we had Josie Jewell come out, and he's on the Broncos now. And I think Pete Werner could be the very same thing, but I like what Pete Werner brings to the table. Just because of his aggressiveness and his ability to do that. He could improve a little bit mentally. I think his instincts, I'd like to see those improve a little bit, but as a whole, he's a really good linebacker. And he honestly might give Dylan Moses here at number 8 a run for his money for that 8 spot because they're graded the same way. Dylan Moses is interesting because he was the guy that committed to Alabama as an 8th grader, and he had really good 2 seasons. He played his freshman and his sophomore season. Excuse me. His 2018 tape as a sophomore was really good. I saw some of that, and I was really excited. He had those instincts. He had that ability to get downhill and make a lot of plays. And then in 2019, he tore his ACL. And then in 2020, his tape looked so much different. He's still athletic. He definitely, the ACL has healed well because he's not struggling to make a lot of good plays laterally. He's not struggling to make a good plays with his athleticism. He's still athletic. He can still fly around the field and make a lot of plays. And he can also be aggressive and make tackles, but at the same time, his instincts, he just looks lost out on the field, and that's not something we saw in 2018, which is really interesting that his injury affected that. He did not look great in games. He kind of just looked, like I said, lost and not really knowing where he was going. So, I mean, he's a good guy. He could potentially be there for a second-round team, and if he returns to his 2018 form, he's going to be a much better player. And I like him. I like his ability a lot to be that type of guy. Moving on to our number, what would that be, 7 guy, Baron Browning, and we have our number 7 and 6 guy. We'll review our number 6 guys, Cameron McGrone. These guys are kind of opposites, which is interesting to see them at 6 and 7 respectively. Baron Browning, like I said with Ohio State linebackers, are a lot of good coverage linebackers. Cameron McGrone does not play much in coverage. He's more of a better run-stopping linebacker and being able to find the run and get to the run. Both of them are pretty athletic. I like Baron Browning as a whole because of his functional athleticism as well as his ability in coverage. He's definitely going to be that type of guy as a will linebacker that could be a coverage guy and do a lot. He's a solid pass rusher as well, but overall he's just a good linebacker, but he isn't good enough at enough traits to be graded higher. Moving on to Cameron McGrone at 6. Like I said, he's a really good run stopper, stout, shorter, and he can come in and make a lot of plays. He plays Mike. And it's an interesting discussion to be had in this class because these 3 guys, right here, and right here, are all the Mikes. And then a lot of outside linebackers, this guy's a Mike, this guy's a Mike, this guy could be a Mike, and this guy could be a Mike. But again, a lot of outside linebackers, especially at the top of the class, which is pretty interesting to watch. So these are our 3 best pure Mike linebackers, I think. And I think McGrone, if he can improve his instincts and ability to be more proficient in coverage and play coverage more, he's going to be a much better player. And I like him a lot. But moving on to number 5, Jamin Davis. This guy's a late riser. I really like him as a player, though. He kind of rose up with Kelvin Joseph, who we talked about before. But what Jamin Davis does well is pretty much everything. We talk about those linebacker traits. Jamin Davis has all of those. He has the instincts. He's a downhill, aggressive run stopper. He's shown his worth in coverage. He's had some really good ball skill plays where he's gotten good interceptions or good pass breakups. And he even had a pick 6 against Tennessee, which I really liked. As a whole, I like him a lot. His size is good. He's 6'3". He looks consistently bigger than a lot of the other guys that he's playing on the field, or at least on the defense, and that's what I like about him. He can continue to develop his body, and that's what he's going to need to do. He can struggle sometimes against bigger offensive tackles to get off those blocks and use his strength. So I'd like to see him develop his body a little bit and be a little bit better there. But in terms of a Mike, as a pure linebacker, he's a really good player, and I think he could end up going pretty high. There's a gap here. You have these first round guys, and then you have Jamin Davis in the top of the second, and then this guy's a third, fourth, which is pretty interesting to watch and talk about. But moving on to our number 4 guy is Nick Bolton. I love Nick Bolton, and when I first watched him, I was so excited to see his ability as a linebacker. He talk about pure linebacker traits. Nick Bolton has those. He's instinctive. He's able to get downhill and stop the run really well. He's really good in coverage. He's a sure tackler. He's an aggressive tackler. He doesn't miss a lot of plays, and he hits hard. Nick Bolton is going to be a guy that you can put pretty much on day one as a Mike linebacker and rely on him to succeed, as long as you can hide his athleticism and his deficiencies there, because he's not the most athletic guy on the field. His lateral mobility is a struggle. His just overall speed and agility is a struggle. And that's a big question we have to get into with these top 3 guys, and that is why Zaven Collins is a 3 over these top 2 guys, is because he just does not have the top tier athleticism. And don't get me wrong, I love Zaven Collins. Zaven Collins is one of my favorite players in the class because of these pure linebacker traits. He's super instinctive, and he plays, I think, Will or Sam. I think he plays Sam depending on where Tulsa lines up, snap in, snap out. But He's an instinctive run defender. He comes down and he makes a lot of plays in the run. He's a good coverage player. He doesn't miss a lot of tackles. And he had some really good ball production in 2020, as well as just his overall ability in coverage. He recognizes when plays are coming to him and he knows how to stop them, which is really good to see. He's really big. He's 260, which leaves some to ask if he could play edge rusher, and he could, but I really like him better as an off-ball linebacker, if I'm being honest with you. I can let the lack of athleticism or the deficiency in athleticism, because he's not athletic. He's athletic. He's just athletic for a 260-pound person compared to a guy like a Nick Bolton or Jamin Davis, who's more athletic for a 240-pound person. The 20-pound difference really gives you perspective there. But Zaven Collins is still pretty athletic. He's just athletic for a 260-pound person. And that's the conversation that needs to be had in war rooms about this kid is he worth being an off-ball linebacker just because his athleticism is lacking? And I believe so. I think you could also move him inside to Mike, and he'd do very well at Mike. Because as a Mike linebacker, you don't have to be the most athletic guy in the field. You obviously have to go and chase downhill run plays and whatnot, but you can kind of mask a little bit of your lacking athleticism if you have that, which is why I like Nick Bolton and Mike. Moving on to number 2, this is kind of going to be a shock to a lot of people, but I have Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons came into college as an edge rusher and came out as an off-ball linebacker, which is why he's ranked not at number 1. His traits are outstanding. He's very athletic. He knows how to play downhill. He knows how to be aggressive and make good tackles. But the lack of linebacker traits from Micah Parsons holds him down for the number 1 spot for me. And it's just the instincts. He gets caught on a lot of misdirections. The pursuit angles, oftentimes when you see him trying to go downhill and pursue an angle to the outside or to a B gap or a C gap from where he is, he ends up messing up the angle because it kind of seems like he's not anticipating a blocker to be there. Well, if you're going on an outside run, you're always going to have a lead blocker on that puller or even just as a tackle as a reach block outside. And he needs to do a better job of anticipating that and moving to find the tackle and making more consistent tackles, because he ends up getting out of position a lot. And as a whole, I also think Micah Parsons with the character stuff is kind of going to pull him down my board a little bit. I don't want my linebacker to be raping teammates in the locker room. That's just not how it is. I'm not about that life, and if he is, more power to him. I just don't want him on my team, I guess. But he's okay. I like his athletic ability, and given time, he's going to develop into a really good linebacker. But for right now, he's not the most pro-ready guy in the world, which is why I like JOK. And Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from Notre Dame, of course. When I first started ranking these guys, I had Parsons at 1, Collins at 2, and JOK at 3. After I rewatched the tape on these 3 guys, I ended up putting JOK at 1 because he is the perfect blend of that athleticism and the linebacker traits that I look for. Despite he's undersized at 215, and I don't like that, but if today's NFL is catering to that, so be it. He can play at 215. Hope he doesn't get injured. But what I love about him is his aggressiveness. He's a downhill player. He's able to find the ball really well, sniff out the ball, and be able to make a big play on it. He's really good in coverage because of that athleticism. He can excel in both man and zone coverage. He's versatile. He could play at will. He could play at Sam. He could play at safety. He could play a lot of different places on the field because of that athleticism and that ability to be aggressive and a big-time run stopper. I like him a lot as an off-ball linebacker over safety just because of his ability to stop the run and rush the passer. He's a really good player, and I think he's a top 10 player to me. He's a blue chip guy, and I think he should go pretty high, even though Micah Parsons might end up going over him. But that's my linebacker picture in total. Again, like I said, we have first-round guys, second-round guys, and then there's a gap for third-round guys, and then fourth-round guys are in this last row. But I think it's an interesting class, like I said, because of that the variability in where these guys are ranked. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe as always. Make sure to share with your friends as well. We're going to keep putting out positional rankings, and we'll see who the wheel decides next. So thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Peace out.